If I,
Hey guys.
it'll be a funny bit if I go, hey, I need help. Hey.
Hey, we're here with Gary Cole from Veep, and I just want to start off, Gary, a big congratulations. You've been working decades in television in the industry, and this is your first ever Emmy nomination. How exciting is that?
This is true. It was a very pleasant surprise, but and also the show did very well with the Emmys, so we're all looking forward to that. And I think there's a total of 9 nominations altogether. So hopefully we'll score a few.
Well, I was going to say, Gary, you're the numbers man on Veep. And I was doing some stats. I was running some numbers. And season 1, you're in 0 episodes. The show scored 3 nominations. Second season, you were in 8 episodes. It scored 5 nominations. This year, 10 episodes. It scored 9 nominations. Is there some correlation there between number of episodes? Yeah.
I mean, numbers don't lie, right? That's what they say.
Yeah.
Or it could just be a marvelous coincidence. Yeah.
How did you find out that you'd got nominated for an Emmy?
Well, I was. I actually didn't. I was one of the. A lot of people would claim that I knew nothing about it. I was, going about my business, and I just heard about it. And I don't believe most of those people. I think a lot of people got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and listened for the announcements. But I was not expecting, I literally did not know that anything was taking place. So I started to get a lot of emails. I was at the gym, actually, and a bunch of emails started to flood in, and then I checked a category and indeed found that the evidence was true. I was nominated, so it was a nice surprise.
Yeah, it's a tough category to get into because there's so many guest actors in comedy series. It's probably one of the biggest ballots there is at the Emmys in terms of number of names on there, and some pretty big names too. So it's a good field to crack.
Yeah, it was. I was actually, because I'm kind of in an unusual situation. Although television here has changed, over the years. There's a lot of situations where characters that aren't necessarily regular are on regular contracts or considered a regular for the show have very long arcs of 8 or 10 episodes, and cable for us here has really kind of promoted that. So I'm a guest actor, but I happen to have the luxury of pretty much being in every show. So that helps when you're searching for votes.
Mm. And what does it mean as someone who's worked in television so long to get an Emmy nomination, to actually get honored in that way?
Well, I think it's nice. I mean, you're recognized by your peers, but I do think that it's all relative. I mean, it's really kind of a bit of a crapshoot. It's really math to a certain degree. I mean, there's only so many spots, and you also benefit. I know I benefit personally just from the fact that I'm on the show. The show is getting a lot of heat right now. The show is noticed in the industry. The name of the show is out there, so that that factor has a lot to do with, I think, the fact that I was nominated.
You were talking about the changing nature of television and the roles of guests and everything like that. And since you have worked in television for so long, what's it been like to have been part of a medium that in the past 2 or 3 decades has seen so much change? Like when you started, there weren't these premium cable comedies that there are now and things like that. What's that been like to be with television as it's gone through so much growth and so much evolution?
Well, the good news for most of the people that work in the industry, especially actors, but I include writers and directors in that, is that I believe the quality of the material has really improved. I just think there's more of it. It's a better. The environment is more ripe for it. There's still a struggle between the broadcast networks and the cable networks. The broadcast networks are under tremendous pressure to deliver very large numbers, so they get very leery of content, and they begin to try to influence it, sometimes not always to their best advantage, but I understand why it happens. Again, it's just math. But in our situation, on a place like HBO or a lot of some of the other networks and cable outlets, the creators are really left alone to their own devices, and that usually, if that product is good, that usually is the best environment to do a show, because it has a singular voice, and it's not robbed of any originality from up above. So I'm thrilled to be in that position in this environment. It's the best place for an actor to be, I think, if you're going to be on television.
Mm. And the way Veep's done is so creative and so different, probably to any other show, in the way that you make it, the way you rehearse the scripts and get them reworked and things like that. Do you want to talk us maybe a little through that and what it's like being part of a show where it is quite a different way of doing things than most other shows on TV?
Well, the show is, first of all, it's created by Armando Iannucci, who was the creator of a show in the UK called The Thick of It, also a movie in the Loop. And he is one of many of a merry band of writers, comedians, and sketch comedy artists. And that environment, that kind of process, he's used on all the material that he's done so far, and Veep is no exception. So, typically what happens is we get a first draft of the show, and we sit around a table like most shows do and read that script, but then that draft is kind of set aside, and each scene is picked apart on its feet without the dialogue that's been written, and everybody's encouraged to improvise and come up with stuff. But what's most important in that process is the writers, all of the writers, or at least a team of the writers, are always present during that, and they are manipulating it as it goes. They are writing down things that are being said and logging them in their memory, and then they go away and come back with a brand new draft. Sometimes it doesn't even resemble anything like the first one, and that process keeps going until it gets in front of the camera, and even then it's still fiddled with till the last minute, till they get the best possible, kind of milk it for all it's worth that way. But it's a great way to work because they discover a lot, they get a lot of, the show has a tone that seems very spontaneous, but there's a lot of work that goes into making that happen. A lot of it is, but a lot of it is designed that way as well.
What was it like sort of joining that kind of process in season 2 with a cast that have been doing that for a whole season already?
Well, it's intimidating, especially for someone who did not come from an environment like that. That's not my background. A lot of people that are on the show, and that even are guests on the show, are from that, that kind of neck of the woods. A lot of improvisation, a lot of, famous troops over here, UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade, which Matt Walsh was one of the founders of, the Groundlings, Second City, a lot of places like that. Those places have had a lot of influence on movies and television in the last, 20 years, I'd say, just because of that process. It's a successful way to generate material. So it was thrilling, but it was also intimidating because I'm getting more comfortable with it as it goes along, but it's not what I was used to. So, there's a little bit of fear there. Well, more than a little bit of fear. But I've been slowly being able to, kind of reduce that.
That's good. Now, for this past season of Veep and for your Emmy submission for guest actor, I'm not sure if you submitted this or someone else chose, you submitted the Crate episode. Um,
Right. Okay.
where yeah,
Right.
this is the second last one of the season.
Right.
And that's the episode where it's also the episode that Julia and Tony both submitted as well. So you've all submitted the
Oh,
same.
oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you've all submitted the same episode. So maybe that episode will win 3 Actors Emmys. But you walk in on them after after you've told Julia she's just won or gotten the presidency, and Tony Hale has the big nosebleed, and they have the hysterical laughing, and you walk in on that. What do you think's going on in Kent's head when he opens the door and finds them in there?
I think Kent is looks in with horror because his first thought is, if she in fact becomes the president on a permanent basis, this is a preview of what will happen on a daily basis that he will have to deal with and kind of spin for the public. I think it was just it's just fear that it's the old thing. Be careful what you wish for, because it may come true.
Mm. Yeah. So with that episode, you also get to inform her she's become the president of the United States, or is about to become the president of the United States. What do you think about that big season 3 twist on Veep that's sort of shaken up the show in a big way?
Well, I think that's one of the excuse me. One of the things that makes the show unusual is the fact that the Armando and the rest of the staff tend to try and take. It seems like every season they've really kind of turned a corner and not gone in the direction that you might think they would go, and put start sending characters in directions that are really seem. Like, for example, to me, a great example was, although it's come full circle, is Tim's character, Jonah, who was, just so effective walking through the halls of the West Wing, spitting out his kind of oblivious arrogance to everybody, and that worked really well. But then they kind of made it full circle, and they got it to the point where he annoyed people so much that he was ejected from that, and now he's in, kind of floating like in some no man's land. And it would have been very easy to keep him there and just keep doing that and keep milking that, but they decided it would be more interesting, and I think they're right, to have him go through this, loss of this thing and have to deal with this underground blogging that he's doing, and now it seems like he's going to find his way back, as we know he probably will. But that kind of thing. I think it's putting familiar characters in uncomfortable position works, and usually kind of breeds something that's funny.
And like a lot of people probably think, well, she can't become the president because the show's called Veep. Like, you can't change that, so it sort of completely subverts people's expectations, that change.
Well, you would think.
Yeah.
I have no idea what they're planning to do, They've gone this far, so I do not know. We haven't seen, I haven't even heard rumors about, where they're going. I'm sure Julia may know something. Because she's a producer herself, so she may be, privy to other things that are going to go on. But we'll know something probably, but the last week of August, I think, is when we start to get together to rehearse.
Oh, exciting. And what's your favorite Kent Davison moment from Veep?
Oh, well, I have to say, and not just because it's the most recent, but when I read the bit where he actually is the one that delivers the news to her, I was really thrilled about that, because it was it is a bit of a shocker, but it was actually a really good scene, and working with Julia is so great, and to be able to do that with her and watch her character react to that news was it was very easy to play because there's a lot going on there. As the stakes were, as high as they could be, at least for that season. So, for right now, that's what stands out in my mind.
Mm. And obviously this season we also saw you have a bit of, I don't know, tension, like sexual tension with Sue, which was very funny to see with these two characters, and very different to the other sort of things we've seen with other sort of characters' romances on sitcoms. Very different way of doing it. But nothing was ever sort of explicitly said. It was all sort of reading between the lines and sort of just the way they talk to each other and things. What was that like, and how do you feel about that relationship?
Well, that was actually the point. I think Armando's note was actually you wanted to get these characters together, interacting in a very strange way, and have it go absolutely nowhere. That was the intent. Whether he intends to continue that, I don't know. But they're both they are perceived as odd by the rest of the characters, I think. I think that's fair to say. Maybe Kent more so than she. But I think that's why he put them together in some kind of weird dance, that they're kind of in this little group. If there are outsiders, those two might be the best candidates to be called that.
Yeah. We got a question from Chris in our chat room, for Chris Beecham, saying that you played the vice president yourself on The West Wing.
I did.
Have you had any advice for Julia based on your past role?
No, I think she's doing fine. I was a much less successful vice president than she was. I had much less. If you could have less power than Selena, I think I did. I was really a lame duck vice president in that situation. But that was a great situation too. Again, great actors, terrific writers, and almost similar in that I came into the show in the middle of it, much later than this. I think I didn't come around until season 4, maybe, or 5. I don't even remember now. But this show is really kind of West Wing on comedy steroids. It's dealing with the same types of people, those archetypes, those Washington. Everybody has a distinction. So it was a great experience as well.
Yeah, this isn't the first time you've run a sort of like a plagued, a troubled presidential campaign from the vice president's office.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, everything is a crisis. That's the whole thing about these characters. I mean, nothing. It's just on to the next problem. There is no. That's why it's funny, because that's politics. There is no moment of sit down, put your feet up. Okay, everything is handled. And now we can just kind of exhale and wait. Nobody is ever. They're all way too paranoid for that. And they're all too fearful of what somebody above them might do.
And I guess West Wing was the very idealized Washington. Maybe not with Bingo Bob Russell, but definitely with the main characters on the show, the people who've been there all year. These are the people who are here for the right reasons and doing the right thing, and sort of what government should be. Whereas Veep almost skewers maybe what government is, and definitely has a much more cynical look at what government does. How do you feel going from that idealized show to a show that is really cutting edge satire, and that idea to have turn back the curtain on Washington D.C.?
Well, one of the scary things we always hear is that people who are actually, because a lot of people, we've been able to meet a lot of the real players, and they continually talk about how the show is so realistic and authentic, and they say, oh yeah, I'm like that guy, or I'm like your character, and we all go, oh my God, we're all doomed, because if this is real, then what's going to happen to our world? but you know, it's really just all about behavior and the characters. I mean, the politics and everything is a backdrop, but it's a great. You know, what's important for it, I always think what's important for the success of a television show is stakes. You know, how high can the stakes be, whether it's comedy or drama? And politics allows really, probably the ultimate stakes, you know, because of what world affairs, you know, the effect they can have on everybody's lives. And the power that is generated by, you know, human beings. And that's the thing, they're only human. They're not, you know, they're not gods, and they're not perfect, and they're not, you know, they're not even close to perfect. But you know, it's just it's a great environment to put these characters inside of.
Yeah, I've talked with some of the other people from Veep and even Armando last year, and it's sort of funny hearing the stories of people in Washington who are relating with the characters, and not even that they're like them, but how excited they are to tell you guys that they're like the characters on the show,
right?
Or that
right.
they work with people like on the show,
right?
Like, oh yeah, it's just like what it's like to work in.
Well, they'll be the first to tell you. You know, sometimes they say people in entertainment are self-involved, but people will talk about people in Washington and talk about living in a total bubble and not, you know, being able to relate anywhere else in the world. Washington would certainly be guilty of that, because that's a world unto its own.
Yeah. We've got a question in the chat room from Irish Movie Lover Forever. Gary Cole, I've loved you since Office Space and since you were in the HBO family. I wonder if you would ever want to guest star on Silicon Valley, considering you did Office Space with Mike Judd.
I would love to do that. I will. I'll put that in the suggestion box at HBO.
Yeah,
and we also hit up Mike Judge and say, hey, you know, I could walk through that office, right? You know.
Yeah, we also had a question come in from the Google page, which has gone away since, but it was someone asking about The Good Wife and your role in that show, which really, many would say, hit its creative peak in its 5th season. What's it been like working on The Good Wife, and sort of where you're going to be back next season and things?
I assume I will be, but it's always, it merely is just kind of, I wait, it's waiting for a phone call, which usually comes, but never know when, and you never know for, you know, how long is it going to be, or how they're going to do it, or what's happening in the scene. So I did a few episodes early in the year last year. You know, I shot them in August and they aired in September, maybe early October, and then I didn't do anything for the rest of the year. And they had, as you know, they had a wild season. They had, you know, a lot of things happen. So I'm assuming I will be back, but I don't know that. I don't know what their writers are up to. I love doing the show. I love Christine more than anything. I think she's a superb actress, and I have a great time, you know, working with her, and the writers always come up with, you know, very interesting things for us to do. And I like the fact that the character, that they're able to convey a lot with this character without saying a whole lot, because I think it fits that he isn't real verbal. You know, I think he basically just says what's on his mind, and he's not really capable of any small talk. So it's a lot of, you know, it's fun to play it.
Also, like, interesting. With Kent Davison on Veep, what's the most challenging part of playing that character?
Well, for one thing, it's always challenging to play somebody who's supposed to be a hell of a lot smarter than you are yourself, and I would say that that's the case with Kent. It's not so much playing the character; it's the tone of Veep. It's if you'll notice in Veep, it's truly an ensemble. There are many scenes in Veep which involve 6, 7, 8 people at a time, which is not the norm for television. There's a lot of television relies on, you know, duet acting or you know, maybe 2 or 3 people at the most. Veep, a lot of the time, is everybody's all in. So it's being able to work in that, and it's really about, you know, really listening and being involved in whatever the situation is. You know, it's different in that way. So I would say that's the biggest challenge, not necessarily individual choices about your character.
Mm. You're in a movie that I think's come out, Tammy, with Melissa McCarthy,
Right.
who's competing against Julia Louis-Dreyfus this year for the lead actress in a comedy series, Emmy. You going to endorse either of the two, Gary?
Oh, so Melissa, that's right. She's nominated too, right? Well, you know, I got to go with the home team. You know, I was only on, you know, I was only on the farm club in Tammy, so.
Yeah.
But I hope the best for both of them. That's all.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, thanks so much for giving us your time today, Gary.
Thank you.
It's
Thanks
been
for having me.
great. It's been great talking Veep. It's been great talking the Emmys and all other stuff on TV. You've guest starred in so many TV shows, from The West Wing to The Practice, Arrested Development, Entourage. Like, you know, the list goes on and on and on. Is there a show at the moment that you just love to get a chance to guest star on, that you just love watching the show?
Well, there was one appointment show for me, and that was a show called Curb Your Enthusiasm, starring Larry David, who created Seinfeld. And I actually was lucky enough to, it was like a bucket list for me. So a couple years ago, I did a guest bit on that. So actually, because that's the one show that I refuse to miss. Nothing else really kind of comes in that category for me. So actually, I was lucky in the sense that I was able to do that.
Yeah. You with The Good Wife and waiting for the calls, a bit like all of us with Curb, like sort of like knowing when there's going to be a new season. It's like Larry will call when he calls. Like
right,
Larry
exactly.
will, yeah.
When they're ready, they, you know, and they don't even say, they just call up and say, how's January look? And then, you know, my agents will go, well, what do you have? Well, we don't know. We're just, I don't know. We're thinking January. We have absolutely no idea what scenes are or what we're going to be doing, but we thought, you know, January sounds good. So that's about as much as we know from time to time. So you just have to kind of roll with it.
And Kurt would have prepared you a little bit for Veep with the improv stuff.
Exactly. Sure. Yeah. You can't. You know. You just have to. You know. There's no schedule to count on. You just kind of wait and see what's presented in front of you, and then you make the best of it.
Yeah, well, thanks so much again for your time, Gary. It's been really fun chatting Veep and stuff with you, and all the best for the Emmys.
Thanks very much.
Actor. Yeah,
appreciate it.
No worries. Hopefully Veep gets some runs on the board, and hopefully you're one of them.
There you go. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
All right.